Get older, you realize it's lost. Any of that history, I didn't ask enough questions, or they weren't used to telling. Isn't that funny? The things you did every day, you didn't take pictures of. And I didn't have a camera back then. Now I try to take a lot.
Tug Hill artist Loretta Lepkowski does more than take a lot of pictures. Inspired by her own childhood on the farm and her deep love of her community, she uses her photography and painting to document local heritage and day-to-day life, and to share the stories of Tug Hill with the broader region. While she may not have set out to be a citizen folklorist, the role came naturally to Loretta. She herself is steeped in the traditions of her Polish-American family and the agricultural life of the Tug Hill area in the southwest part of New York's North Country.
We'd have the Easter basket and take it to church to be blessed on Holy Saturday, and that had the babka, the bread, and some ham, kielbasa, a little lamb butter, the lamb cake, the colored eggs, those type of things. I helped my mother a lot with the gardens because 4-H we also gardened and then took those vegetables to the fair. That's how we earned summer money. Oh, I would help milk sometimes, help wash the machines, scrape up, help with haying. This is a big agricultural county. And growing up on a farm, it gives you a new appreciation in the heart.
And due to her natural warmth, curiosity, and enthusiasm, those she connects with tend to share with her as well. On a summer job collecting data for the Social Services Department, she'd interviewed people and
they would tell me their whole life story, and I remember my supervisor saying, "How did you get all this information?" I said, "Well, they just told me,
A sociology major in college, she went to graduate school at the University of Kentucky for rural gerontology, and then went on to use her social work degree to work in community mental health services for 15 years. All along, she's been dabbling in art, but in 2009, she became inspired by the needs of her community to do something more with her painting.
Farmers were struggling. I got thinking, what could I do to help lift their spirits?
Over the coming years, she would continue to seek grants and partner with regional organizations like the Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust, the Tug Hill Commission, and TAUNY to carry out projects documenting Tug Hill life.
I didn't think so much about documenting history, but I know that's what has happened. I wanted to elevate the family farmers and have people appreciate them for what they did, and I wanted them to benefit from it. So I had no idea how it would take off.
Take off it did, with the Family Farms exhibit traveling the region for 6 years. It also led Loretta to another project when she realized she wanted to do closer portraits of people in her community. Starting with a number of Tug Hill sages, whom the Tug Hill Commission has celebrated for their knowledge and experience in the region, Loretta teamed up again with the Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust and TAUNY as well. She's made through her work, whether trading tales, bringing by some baked goods and photos, or driving people out to see an exhibit that features them. And she keeps thinking on how best to share what she's found with the next generation as well, offering arts and culture workshops that help kids and families celebrate their heritage and the beautiful landscape they call home. What matters to her most is for her work to help people feel happy and valued, and judging by their delight when they recognize their experience in her projects, she's succeeding. In the process, she's helping to create a vibrant record of Tug Hill heritage and regional identity. As for why her work resonates so much with the community, she says,
I think it helps ground us a little bit, doesn't it? It's a way, like I said, for people to pause, take note of where they came from. It's a research project, isn't it? I mean, it's more than that. I think because it gives back. Just like this, I thought if one painting gave one person a little joy, then it was worth it.
Built in 1850 by Watertown native Loveland Paddock, The Paddock Arcade is the oldest continuously operated covered shopping mall in the country. It was built in the Gothic style with natural light filtering down through its glass roof and ceiling.
The indoor street, they called it. A place that you could live, you could do business, and you could recreate.
Over the years, shops have occupied the bottom floor, while upper floors have held office space and residences. The arcade lies in the heart of historic downtown Watertown. As one of the current owners, Don Kuhn, points out,
this was the center of downtown and of the retail that was here. Paddock Arcade, this was kind of the mall. This is where everybody came.
And many community members have a special place in their heart for the arcade, recalling stories of its history as well as its place in their own childhood memories and present-day routines.
Back in the day, there was a butcher shop in there, there was a grocery store in there, hairdresser, barber. There was, going way, way back, a photography studio.
In the day, there was actually a post office here. There was the phone switchboard.
When I was a kid, what always was fun is you'd walk in, and in the entranceway, there were all phones. And you had like 10 pay phones. And every kid that walked through here checked every one of the coin things. And every once in a while, you'd find a dime in the thing, and you were all excited. So then you could go over and to the caramel corn shop. But everybody walked out of the arcade with a box of cheese popcorn or pralines. By the time you were walking around the square, your hands were all yellow, and so was your face from eating the popcorn.
That's right, that's right.
Of course, I have to start with the caramel corn shop. I think that's everyone's fondest memory. You walked in there, and that's all you could smell. And then another shop in there that was a favorite of mine was Robinson's in the arcade. They sold nice ladies' clothing, greeting cards, and they would know what size I wore. Made life so easy for people.
So at my wedding, I had to get ready there. They have a really nice salon. It was called the Beauty Bar because they had gotten special permission from the city to serve alcohol while they're doing people's hair.
I can remember when we were kids, on a Saturday, you could come through here and there was everything you ever wanted. Hobby shop, there was candy corn shop, there was the bookstore, the comics. It was great. And now it's coming back, and it's great.
There have been ups and downs over the arcade's history, but thanks to some luck, loving care, and lots of hard work by current and recent owners, the arcade continues to thrive. These days, it's home to popular restaurants, a tavern, a martial arts studio at one end and yoga at the other, a bicycle shop, bakery, offices, and more. And it's home as well to the warm community formed by the business proprietors. Steve Duffany's insurance business is in an upstairs office. He says he could have worked from home but preferred the camaraderie of the arcade.
It was a collection of people. It was just fun to everybody to be around. Everybody would meet in the hallway. We'd all talk. You help each other out. And that was one of the reasons I came back down there. I wanted to see it come back,
The community spirit inside the arcade extends outward as well, with proprietors, patrons, and the arcade owners all looking to contribute to the life of downtown Watertown. And the arcade continues to be a gathering place, bringing in the community with events from Chamber of Commerce and election night gatherings to weddings, farmers markets, and visits from Santa Claus. Holiday choirs and rock bands have sung from the balconies, and for about the last 15 Halloweens, volunteers from the long-standing martial arts studio have transformed the place into a gallery of frights for the annual haunted house, bringing new generations through the doors to trade caramel corn for candy corn and make their own arcade memories. As for why it remains such a special place,
an awful lot of people, their whole lives, they've been coming here. Folks that grew up here, and then now there's new traditions.
So much a part of our history in Watertown, so much a part of mine and so many other people's childhood memories, and without our past, we have no future.
I always had an interest in farming. My grandfather, who was just the quietest man, he grew grapes. And I remember asking him, "Can I work with you in the vineyard?" And he said, "Do you think you're big enough to pull grapes?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I can do it. But I never could have guessed that 30 years later I would be doing horticulture on my own.
growing up in Mount Arab, Bill MacKentley learned the importance and the challenge of growing food in the cold North Country climate. He took his interest in farming and his enterprising spirit off to college. After graduating, he formed an organization called Environmental Testing Service. He really found his calling, though, when he started reading a Watertown Times weekly column by a man named Fred Ashworth. Fred, a farmer and amateur horticulturist in Heuvelton, New York, had by then spent 50 years growing trees and other crops that could steadily produce food in northern New York's harsh climate, including the coldest test winters that kill off all but the hardiest plants. By 1924, Fred had started St. Lawrence Nurseries to sell these trees.
He was working specifically on what you could grow here and what you might be able to make grow here. In other words, can we find walnuts, black walnuts that are hardy enough to be reliable here in the North Country? Can we find hickory nuts that are reliable enough?
Fred quickly became Bill's mentor, and a very generous one at that. After a few meetings, Fred gave Bill and his soon-to-be wife Diana an acre of land to get started on, and they were soon working closely together.
I did my first grafts in 1972. He taught me to graft, and the two of us worked all day.
For the next 5 years, Bill apprenticed with Fred, learning all he could. He and Diana also started building up their own homestead on that acre to settle right on the nursery grounds where they still reside today. When Fred passed away unexpectedly in 1977, Bill and Diana had not only become partners in the nursery, but part of the Ashworth family. Fred's kids were glad to see Bill keep the nursery going.
We built it up. By 81, I still kept carrying the old customers that Fred had. Word of mouth would go out, and I started making new finds.
Over the next 36 years, Bill developed the nursery's offerings, tracking down every lead, keeping an eye on special trees around the region over decades, and faithfully propagating the varieties that stand out for their winter hardiness, good flavor, and more. Bill and Diana also grew the business side of the operation, developing a catalog, refining their yearly production cycle, and building a large and far-flung customer base.
We were the main supplier. We were selling about 6,000 apple trees alone. We were selling 50,000 trees. And that was right at our limit. We were the main supplier for the UP of Michigan, all of northern Wisconsin, all of northern Minnesota, all of Montana, and any place it was cold.
When they decided to retire and put out their last catalog in 2015, they were swamped with orders.
My feeling was this: if you can grow a quality product for a reasonable price, you can't lose. Fred would be very happy, I think. I think Fred would be very happy.
And however well the business has done, Bill's been looking well beyond it all along. He's growing trees not just to sell, but to build a population that can thrive despite threats from blight to climate change. He's shown his commitment to carrying on the vital horticultural traditions he inherited from Fred by working closely with Connor Hardiman, his own successor at the nursery. And having gratefully learned so much from Fred and others in the field, he shared his own knowledge in turn with everyone, from customers to colleagues to the kids he coaches every year on the New York State horticulture team. For all his attention to future generations, though, and despite his official retirement in 2015, he's also not ready to put aside his passion anytime soon. His work is just too meaningful to him and too much fun.
I've been doing this for a long time, and it's sort of like I've been able to play. How many people get to play for 50 years?
And as he says, looking up at the laden branches of a treasured black walnut tree on a sunny afternoon, he just might go ahead and do it for 50 more.